like, share, subscribe.
Aircrafts used in Yemen wars between 1962 and 1994. Major combat operations in the first phase of the Yemen Civil War, during the first half of May 1994. Major combat operations during the second and third phases of the Yemen Civil War, in the second half of May and early June 1994. One of two Harvards operated by the Air Force of the Imamate of Yemen. Harvard is the British and Canadian designation for the American T-6 Texan trainer aircraft. MiG-15 BIS of the UARAF, Hodeidah Air Base in 1963 and 1964, it's one of 45 MiGs originally manufactured in Czechoslovakia on Syrian order, but delivered to Egypt in late 1955 or spring 1956. After surviving the Suez War of 1956, it was either purchased or donated to Egypt, or taken up by the UARAF during the short-lived union of Egypt and Syria. By 1962, it was equipped with 4 double rails for SAKR rockets. Egyptian MiG-17F operated out of Hodeidah Air Base, and encountered by a British military aircraft patrolling the Red Sea in 1964. Soviet-built Ilyushin 28 was delivered to Egypt in late 1955 and was one of up to 2 dozen to survive the Suez War of 1956. Typical weapons deployed by this type during the Yemen War, including a FAB-250M46 bomb, FAB-100M46 and FAB-50M46. Egyptian Tupolev 16 bombers, operated by Air Group 65's No. 34 and 36 squadrons, in 1966 to 1967. 4 single-seat Hunter EFT Mk-60s and 2 TMK-7s operated by No. 6 Squadron RSAF. This plane, delivered to Saudi Arabia on the 2nd of May, 1966, and crashed at Taif Air Base during a low-level flight in 1967 while flown by British pilot Duncan Simpson. The 5 surviving aircraft were donated to Jordan in 1968. The ex-Soviet Air Force MiG-17s delivered by the USSR to the newly established and Hodeidah-based 111th Squadron Yarif in 1968. Between 1968 and 1972, most Yarif combat aircraft received a coat of disruptive camouflage colors. These colors probably came from Syria, which is known to have had a detachment of at least 8 pilots assigned to the Yarif during that period. The first batch of South Yemeni MiG-17 was camouflaged in dark brown and olive green. Seen on the side is one of the MiG-17 delivered by the mid-1970s. These were all painted in light Admiralty grey. People's Democratic Republic of Yemen Air Forces Ilyushin 28. This type saw some combat service during the short war with North Yemen in 1972, and the sole South Yemeni Ilyushin 28R flew a single reconnaissance sortie over Oman, in early July of the same year. Second-hand MiG-21 PFMs delivered to South Yemen. Dozen of MiG-21 MFs that entered service with the PDRIAF in 1973 usual armament included 4 R3S, AA-2 Atoll, air-to-air missiles and 23mm internal cannon. South Yemen acquired at least 3 batches of MiG-21 BIS, each of which appears to have received a different camouflage pattern. Most of these were camouflaged in the typical coat of beige and olive green on top surfaces and sides, and light Admiralty grey on bottom surfaces. South Yemen was one of the major export customers for several variants of the Su-22 series. The first to arrive were 12 Su-22s, all of which appear to have been camouflaged in dark brown and olive green. This example is armed with 4 FAB-500M62 general-purpose bombs and carrying RTB-1150 drop tanks, with a capacity of 1,150 liters. Up to 40 Su-22MS, Su-22M3S, and Su-22UM3KS were delivered to South Yemen between 1980 and 1986, where they entered service with the 15th or 22nd Attack Regiment. It is likely that some Su-22MS were upgraded to Su-22M2 standard by 1986, as was done in Iraq, Libya, and Syria in the mid-1980s. It is armed here with a UB-32 J-57 pod for 57mm S-5 unguided rockets. These were used in large numbers during the Civil War of 1994. In 1989 or early 1990, South Yemen received a batch of between 12 and 14 Su-22M4KS. Aircraft is shown armed with B-8M pods for 80mm unguided rockets and carrying a RTB-1150 drop tank. The first 8 F-5s delivered to North Yemen wore the better-known Asia Minor camouflage pattern. They are delivered together with a batch of AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles. North Yemeni Su-22MS were painted in a wide range of different camouflage patterns, most of which consisted of dark brown, light green, and olive green on top surfaces and sides and light Admiralty grey on undersurfaces. This example survived the 1994 Civil War. It is armed with RBK-250 cluster bomb units and carrying a RTB-800 drop tank with a capacity of 800 litres. North Yemen received a total of 60 MiG-21 BIS and MiG-21 UMs, delivered in 2 batches, each of which was camouflaged in different fashion. Here is an example from the first batch, which arrived already painted in the same pattern as applied on numerous MiG-21 BIS exported to different African countries, including Congo-Brazzaville and Mali, in the early 1980s. The Yarif received 18 to 20 Mi-8s in the early 1980s, all of which were operated by the 128th Helicopter Squadron from Daylami Air Base. North and South Yemeni Mi-8s were often used not only for assault and transport purposes, but for ground attacks, usually armed with 3 UB-32 J-57 pods for 57mm unguided rockets. Due to high demand for attack helicopters in Afghanistan, the Soviet military was short of Mi-24 helicopter gunships for most of the 1980s. When Moscow finally agreed to supply a batch of these to South Yemen, it had to use 16 second-hand Mi-24 as several of those delivered to Aden in 1985 and 1986 wore clear signs of repairs after suffering various degrees of combat damage in Afghanistan. Most were destroyed during the coup of 1986, relatively soon after their delivery, and only a handful remained in service to see some combat during the Civil War of 1994. Ex-Moldovan MiG-29 that entered service with the PDRIAF. It was a former mount of the Soviet Navy's 86 Guards Interceptor Aviation Regiment, 86 GIAP, itself a part of the 119th Naval Interceptor Division. Originally camouflaged in green, dark green and sand brown on top surfaces, and light blue-grey on undersurfaces, it was oversprayed with a thin layer of green enamel before delivery to Yemen. Wreckage of this aircraft was found at Aden AB in early July 1994. Aircrafts used in Yemen wars between 1994 and 2017. About a dozen MiG-21 BIS were still in service with Anad-based 90th Aviation Brigade as of 2008 to 2009, by which time most of the fleet was overhauled in Ukraine. This aircraft is one of 60 MiG-21 BIS acquired by former North Yemen in the period 1979 to 1982. Non-operational by 2011 to 2012, this MiG-21 was wrecked during the fighting for Anad Air Base in August 2015. It is shown armed with 2 types of bombs frequently deployed during the 6 Sareda Wars, FAB-250M62 and RBK-250. Yemen was the only export customer for the Su-17M4, a variant originally manufactured solely for the Soviet Air Force. At least 4 such aircraft were acquired during or immediately after the War of 1994. Over time, all of the YAF's MiG-29s were overhauled and brought to the SM standard, and received the same camouflage pattern, consisting of beige and 2 shades of brown on top surfaces and sides, and light Admiralty grey on undersides. The most frequently used armament consisted of B-8M pods for 80mm S-8K unguided rockets, but YAF MiG-29 SMS are known to have deployed KH-29, AS-14 Kedge, guided air-to-ground missiles in combat too. When the RSAF became involved in the 6th Sareda War, in 2009, the majority of its Tornado IDS fleet was still wearing the original, wraparound camouflage pattern, applied since their delivery in the 1980s. This consisted of light stone, dark earth, and dark green. Notable also is that AIM-9M Sidewinder air-to-air missiles were always carried, regardless of the actual nature of the mission and a complete lack of aerial opposition. During the second half of the 2000s, each of the RSAF squadrons operating Tornado IDs received 4 aircraft painted in barley grey overall. By 2015, this camouflage pattern was applied fleet-wide. Primary armament consists of Damocles nav attack pods and GBU-12 or GBU-49 guided bombs. All of the Saudi F-15s are painted in a relatively simple camouflage pattern consisting of aggressor grey overall, with big splotches of ocean grey along most exposed top surfaces. Weapons configurations usually include GBU-12s and GBU-49s, AGM-65, and a wide range of general-purpose bombs as well as CBUs. Regardless of the nature of the actual mission flown over Yemen, they are always armed with a pair of AIM-9MS and AIM-120CS each. This example from No. 55 Squadron is illustrated as configured for a reconnaissance sortie in April 2015 and carries a Goodrich DB-110 reconnaissance pod under the centerline. The UAAF operates 3 squadrons equipped with 49 Mirage 2000 to 5 Mk2s. Most of these are painted in satin light blue-green overall, with a standardized camouflage pattern in satin light ghost grey. As well as air-to-air missiles like Mica and Magic Mk2, they are armed with a wide range of guided air-to-ground weapons, all of which have been combat-tested in Yemen. Amongst these are South African-designed and Emirates-assembled Al-Tariq and Marconi Al-Hakim, PGM-1, usually combined with the Thales Optronics TVCT CLDP laser designator pod. Equipped with the APG-80 AESA radar and F-110GE-132 engines, the F-16EF Desert Falcons of the UAEAF belong to the most advanced variants of this series ever manufactured. All 80 are painted in a wraparound camouflage pattern consisting of light grey and light ghost grey. Most aircraft sighted in action over Yemen were single-seaters operated by Shaheen 1 Squadron, though a few F-16s from Shaheen 3 Squadron have been sighted in action since 2016 too. This F-16E, apparently operated by Shaheen 3 Squadron, is shown together with some of heavier PGMs deployed by this type during the first 2 years of the aggression against Yemen. These include GBU-31, Al-Tariq, the AAQ-32 sniper targeting FLIR and laser designator, Al-Hakim, PGM-1, and AGM-84H. Other weapons known to have been deployed by Emirati F-16s include GBU-12, GBU-24, and GBU-49 LGBs, GBU-38 GPS homing bombs, AGM-65 Maverick guided missiles, and also CBU-87, CBU-97, CBU-105, and other cluster bomb units. Kuwait announced the participation in the aggression against Yemen with a deployment of 15 FA-18C Hornets in March 2015. Most of these were carrying either Mk.82 general-purpose bombs or GBU-1249 LGBs. Notable is that these are the only jets of the Saudi-led coalition still regularly armed with older AIM-7 Sparrow missiles, instead of latest AIM-120 ARM-AAMs. Bahrain also participated in the Saudi-led aggression against Yemen with the deployment of 4 to 6 F-16CS from numbers 1 and 2 squadrons, RBAF at King Khalid Air Base, since late March 2015. Morocco acquired a total of 16 F-16C Block 52S and 8 F-16D Block 52S. These are operated by 3 flights, Escadrons, Viper, Falcon, and Spark-Ur of the Borak Squadron FRA. The aircraft are known to have been delivered together with AIM-120C7 and AIM-9M air-to-air missiles, AGM-65DGH Maverick air-to-ground missiles, GBU-10, GBU-12 and GBU-24 LGBs, and GBU-31 and GBU-38 GPS homing bombs. However, in action over Yemen they are usually equipped with AAQ-32 sniper targeting pods and GBU-1249s, and carry 4 AIM-9M Sidewinders. The Qatar Emiri Air Force deployed at least 4 of a total of 9 Mirage 2000-5 EDA single-seaters and 3 Mirage 2000-5 DDA two-seaters from its No. 7 Air Superiority Squadron at King Khalid Air Base early during the aggression against Yemen. It is usually armed with a pair of GBU-1249S bombs. The Egyptian Air Force joins the aggression forces with detachments of F-16s in the King Khalid Air Base. Most examples were F-16C Block 40S, drawn from the Abu Suwair-based 262 Tactical Fighter Wing, Junklis-based 272 Tactical Fighter Wing, and Fade-based 282 Tactical Fighter Wing. They are usually armed with a single lantern targeting pod, 2 GBU-12s or GBU-49s, and up to 4 AIM-9M sidewinders. Squadrons 1, 2, and 6 of the Royal Jordanian Air Force are flying a mix of refurbished F-16A Block 15S and former Belgian and Dutch F-16Ms, or F-16AB Block 20 MLUs. Because of the slightly lower standard of their self-protection equipment, they usually also carry ALQ-131 electronic countermeasures pods. Otherwise, their armament generally consists of AAQ-32 sniper pods, GBU-1249 LGBs, AIM-9M Sidewinder, and AIM-120 arm missiles. Sudan acquired a total of 8 Su-24MS from Belarus, starting in 2013. All were overhauled by the 558th Aircraft Repair Plant in Baranovichi before delivery, and received a desert camouflage scheme. While usually based at Wadi Shahidna Air Base, between 2 and 4 are rotated to King Khalid Air Base outside Khomis Mushat for tours of duty lasting 3 to 4 weeks since April 2015. Initially armed with FAB-250-230 general-purpose bombs for operations over Yemen, they are meanwhile known to have deployed GPS GLONASS-assisted weapons too. The latter are based on Soviet-Russian FAB-250M62 bomb design, though modified by addition of kits designated Module A, made in North Korea. 72 F-2000s operated by numbers 3 and 10 squadrons were initially deployed to fly caps over Yemen, armed only with German-made Iris-D and US-made AIM-120 AMRAAM Slammer air-to-air missiles. However, compatibility with Damocles targeting pods and laser-guided bombs like Paveway 2 and Paveway 4 became available by April-May 2015. A Saudi aircraft of this type was shot down during a combat operation on September 14, 2017. Yemeni missile forces have arsenal of R-17E, Scud, Burkan 1 and Burkan 2 ballistic missiles.
Like, share, subscribe.